Welcome back. Well, we'll continue our focus on the devaluation of Naira and, of course, the falling oil prices in the international market. You just heard from our online contributors. However, we're now joined by Henry Nosegbi. Henry, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So first, I mean, what's the implication of this devaluation of Naira as well as the falling oil prices on the Nigerian citizen?
The fall in the value of the Naira has been a fallout from the fall in crude oil prices because Nigeria is an oil-dependent country and our economy is based on revenues from the sale of oil. Oil has fallen to below $50 a barrel as at now, and there has been an effect on government revenue. There has been an effect in terms of the rise of inflation because most of the things we consume in Nigeria are imported. For people who have to purchase things from abroad, both goods and services, for those who want to, for example, school abroad, the impact has also been felt in terms of increased prices because the value of the Naira has fallen as against those currencies. So the devaluation of the Naira is going to affect most Nigerians negatively because we are an importing country. But for some very few Nigerians who manufacture goods for exports, for example, cocoa, rubber, and those kind of things, there will be an improvement for their own end because they are exporting goods. You understand? So for those who are into non-oil exports in Nigeria, they will benefit. But the vast majority of Nigerians are going to suffer as a result because we are an oil-dependent country and because we import most of the things we consume.
All right, so but some of the view that it's a one-sided government policy. Some believe that if the Naira has been devalued, there should be some sort of subsidy in products, not only petroleum, but maybe transport and other stuff for the Nigerian public. Do you agree with that view?
Well, ideally, we shouldn't even be subsidizing consumption of petroleum products. What advanced countries do, what the kind of things they subsidize are productive activities. For example, in Europe spends close to 40% of its budget subsidizing farmers, for instance, and as a result, they are able to produce more than enough food for their population. So we have to look at it from the angle of what should we be doing versus what are we doing. Of course, the government tried to remove the fuel subsidy back in 2012, but had to backtrack due to protests. One would argue that due to limited sources of government financing, they may not be able to subsidize any other sector at this point. But, you know, for me, it's about how the government has been able to stimulate productive activity. Because if we were able to produce and we had functioning companies and you know, and we had the unemployment rate reduced and we were able to create jobs, governments would have been able to raise revenues from taxes and we'll be able to produce enough for our country and we won't necessarily have to depend on the price of crude for us to sustain our economy. So I think those are the wider issues we should be looking at: how to diversify the economy, how to diversify away from oil and reduce our dependence on oil exports, how to build refineries in the country so that we don't have to depend on imported finished products. So those are the issues that we need to look at, and those are the things we need to bring to play.
Okay, talking about Europe now, we've noticed Europe and even the Americas, North America, we've noticed that the price of, that the pump price for fuel has reduced, but here it's still the same. Do you think it will be a good idea for them to reduce pump price, transport, that's price of transportation and other goods and services? Will it be a wise policy to make at this moment?
Okay, we need to understand that there's a difference between the European or American markets or oil market and that of Nigeria. In Europe and America, they have a fully deregulated market, but we have a regulated market in the sense that we have a subsidy regime in place. What will happen when the prices of crude fall? Of course, that will also mean that the price of the oil we are importing into the country will also fall. But what will happen first is that the subsidy being paid, which is the difference between the original cost of the petroleum products and the cost to the consumer, will reduce. As we've heard news reports that subsidy being paid by the government has reduced to about 90 kobo per litre. We'd expect that subsidy to be exhausted first before we'll see the effects on the market. And that's what happens where you have a subsidy regime in place. Okay. Alternatively, we could ask the government to maintain the subsidy as it is and then reduce crude oil prices, but the government right now, I'm not sure the government is in a sound financial position to do that due to limited funding.
Okay,
so
just in finishing up this, what would be the way forward?
Of course, the wider issue again is, one, we need to have a proper sovereign wealth fund that we can save, where we can save excess crude oil revenues during periods of boom, like we had in 2011. The government actually had the idea, but the governors kicked against it. And then we need to put in place systems to diversify our economy so that we don't have to depend on oil, boost manufacturing, fix the power sector issue, create jobs, provide employment, provide funding for business ideas so that we can generate enough revenues from our own productive activities rather than having to depend on crude oil revenues. So that is the direction from which the government should be going. And there should be no lip service to this. It has to be properly thought out, well-executed policy.
All right, Henry Nosagwe, economist, thank you for coming to the program and sharing your insights on this very contentious issue.
Thank you very much.
That's where we are. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we see your comments streaming through our social media platforms. That's Google+, Facebook, as well as Twitter. We'll take some of them, but then we'll also look at the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. So stay around and join us after the break.
APC had multiple registrations of individuals in multiples of 16, 12, and 10. Several foreigners were also registered as its members.
At number 5, we have the video of the Director of State Security accusing the opposition All Progressives Congress of trying to hack the INEC database and clone permanent voters' cards.
We also had forms with passport photographs with no names affixed to them. We also found volumes of hard manuals on how to hack. That I will show to you later. It was also discovered that the APC registered underage persons, including several infants, babies, as members of their party.
My first preoccupation is what is best for Nigeria. Nigeria first.
The declaration by former President Olusegun Obasanjo that his life is worth nothing when it comes to Nigeria's interests come in at number 4.
Nigeria first means that I will not sacrifice anything for the interest of Nigeria. And as I've said, I can sacrifice my own life for the interest of Nigeria.
Professor Oshimbajo,
yes.
Tell me, do you have the blessings of your general overseer, Pastor E. Adeboye, you contesting for a vice presidential seat.
At number 3 is the revelation by the vice presidential candidate of the APC, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, that he sought the advice of the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, before accepting his nomination.
You know, I would certainly not contest elections or do any public thing without at least seeking his consent and ensuring that I discuss it with him in full. Yes.
His Excellency, our President, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, has done so well, and we say we want more. We want him to continue.
The second most watched video is the mind-boggling speech given by former Super Eagles captain Joseph Yobo during President Jonathan's re-election campaign launch in Lagos.
Everyone here thinks you should know what he has done. If not for Mr. President, we wouldn't win the Nations Cup. We won the Nations Cup after 20 years.
And at number 1 is the president himself telling a mammoth crowd that his generation has failed to take Nigeria to the heights it should be, and he threw that challenge to the next generation.
I believe that, look, the young Nigerians, not people spend like, we are finished. They are my age and above. We are gone. I believe that's why I say I'm addressing the age of between 23 to 18 to 23. So those of you who are voting for the first time, we believe that you people will take us to the moon. My generation has failed. We couldn't take Nigeria to the moon.
Well, there you go. Those were some of the comments that you sent, and clearly Nigeria's president has thrown the challenge to the next generation. Amid the continued fall of global crude oil prices, the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has asked the federal government to take advantage of the window to reduce the retail price of petroleum products in the country. Now, according to the TUC, the best time to review the retail pump price of premium motor spirits, PMS, popularly called petrol at the filling stations across the country, is now, in line with the argument put forward by the government in 2012 when the price was adjusted from 70 Naira per litre to the current 97 Naira per litre. At this point, we draw the curtains on this edition of the program, but continue the conversation online via the social media addresses showing on your screen. Till I see you next week, I am Victor Matthias.